The moment my wife chose a mobile game over our marriage, I felt something inside me die. I still remember standing near the front gate of that military base in my dress uniform while people around me celebrated one of the proudest days of their lives. Meanwhile, my entire future had just collapsed 30 minutes after graduation because the woman I thought I loved looked me in the eyes and picked strangers from a video game over me. Even now, months later, I still replay that moment in my head and wonder how everything spiraled so far out of control so fast. I met Madison when we were both still trying to figure life out. I was 21 back then, working brutal hours at a warehouse distribution center while taking extra shifts whenever I could. Madison was beautiful in a quiet kind of way. She had this calm voice that made every conversation feel peaceful, and she always acted impressed by how hard I worked. At the beginning, she made me feel appreciated in a way nobody else ever had before. I grew up believing that if you truly loved somebody, you protected them, provided for them, and made their life easier than your own. So from the start, that became my mindset with her. When we started dating seriously, I took over everything financially. Rent, groceries, gas, streaming subscriptions, her phone bill, shopping trips, literally every expense you could think of. Madison stayed home while I worked 12 to 16-hour shifts almost every day. Honestly, I did not even mind it back then. Coming home to her felt worth it. I would walk through the apartment door exhausted and sweaty from work, and she would smile at me from the couch while asking how my day was. That alone made me feel like I had a purpose. The only issue was that Madison got bored easily whenever I was gone. She hated being alone all day, and I could tell she needed something to keep her entertained while I worked. One night after dinner, I introduced her to my favorite mobile game, Call of Duty Mobile. I thought it would just be a fun distraction for her. Something harmless we could occasionally play together before bed. At first, it actually brought us closer. We stayed up laughing during matches, yelling at random teammates, and joking around while trying ridiculous loadouts. Those were honestly some of the happiest nights I can remember. But after a few months, something changed. The game stopped being a casual hobby for Madison and slowly became her entire world. She started playing from the moment she woke up until late into the night. I would come home after exhausting shifts, hoping to spend time together, and instead I would find her sitting in the same spot with her headphones on, completely locked into another match. Sometimes I would stand there talking to her for 30 seconds before she even realized I was home. At first, I tried to laugh it off. Everybody needs hobbies, right? Besides, she was insanely good at the game, like unbelievably good. Within a year, she had climbed into one of the highest ranked brackets in the entire world. I am not exaggerating when I say she was among the top fraction of players globally. Random people online recognized her username. Other players would ask to queue with her constantly. She had entire groups of people who followed her gameplay and invited her into tournaments and competitive lobbies. Part of me was genuinely proud of her. I encouraged it because she seemed happy, and seeing her excited about something made me happy too. But another part of me quietly noticed how distant she was becoming. The more attention she got online, the less attention she gave to real life. Our conversations became shorter, date nights disappeared. Even sitting together on the couch felt lonely because her eyes were always glued to her phone screen. I ignored the warning signs because I loved her. Then I made the biggest decision of my life. I enlisted in the army. I wanted stability, benefits, structure, and a future that felt bigger than endless warehouse shifts. I wanted us to have a real life together someday, maybe even a family. Around that same time, I decided to marry Madison because despite the growing distance, I still believed she was my person. I thought maybe the stress of life had just pulled us apart temporarily and that marriage would strengthen our bond. For a little while, it actually felt hopeful. We had a small wedding with close family and friends before I shipped out for training. Madison cried during our vows, held my hand tightly, and promised we would get through the distance together. I believed every word she said. Military training was one of the hardest experiences of my life. Every day pushed me mentally and physically beyond my limits. Sleep barely existed. My body constantly hurt. The pressure never stopped. But through all of it, the thing that kept me moving was the idea of coming home to my wife afterward. At least, that was the plan. The first month apart, Madison still called me often. She told me she missed me and counted down the days until I returned. But gradually, her energy changed. Her replies became slower. Her messages became dry and emotionless. Sometimes I would finally get access to my phone after an exhausting day only to realize she had ignored me for 10 straight hours. Whenever we did talk, she sounded distracted. I could literally hear game sounds in the background during our calls. Sometimes she would suddenly stop responding because she was in the middle of a match. One night, I remember pouring my heart out to her about how overwhelmed I felt during training, and she interrupted me halfway through to complain about her teammates ruining her rank. That conversation crushed me more than any punishment my drill instructors ever gave me. Still, I kept making excuses for her. I told myself long distance was hard. I told myself she was lonely. I told myself things would feel normal again once training ended. 6 months later, graduation day finally arrived. That morning was one of the proudest moments of my life. Standing there in uniform beside the people I had suffered alongside felt surreal. For the first time in months, I felt accomplished, strong, like I was finally building a future worth something. And Madison was there to witness it. The second I saw her in the crowd, my heart jumped. I ran over and hugged her harder than I ever had before. For a moment, everything felt perfect again. She smiled, kissed me, and congratulated me while taking dozens of pictures. I remember thinking maybe the nightmare phase of our relationship was finally over. Then everything exploded. Later that afternoon, we sat together looking through the graduation photos on her phone. She was swiping through them casually while showing me different angles and laughing about how serious I looked in some shots. Then her finger accidentally slid one photo too far. What appeared on the screen instantly made my stomach tighten. It was a screenshot of a conversation between her and another man. At first, she tried to swipe away quickly, but I had already seen enough. There were hearts, flirty messages, pet names, the kind of intimacy you do not accidentally share with somebody unless boundaries have already been crossed. I asked her who he was. The panic on her face told me everything before she even opened her mouth. The conversation that followed felt like getting stabbed repeatedly in slow motion. She admitted she met him through Call of Duty Mobile months earlier while I was away training. According to her, they started out gaming together every day before becoming emotionally involved. She insisted they never met in person, but honestly, at that point, I barely cared. The betrayal still felt real. Suddenly, all the cold phone calls made sense. All the ignored messages, all the emotional distance. While I was breaking my body and mind trying to build a future for us, she was building emotional connections with another man online. I asked her one simple question. Was she willing to delete the game and cut him off completely so we could fix our marriage? I will never forget her answer. She hesitated. That hesitation alone shattered something inside me. Then she quietly said she did not think she could give up the game because it was her entire social life. I stared at her in disbelief. 30 minutes after graduating military training, my wife was essentially telling me that a mobile game and the people inside it mattered more than our marriage. I walked her silently toward the massive front gate of the base. Cars passed by while families celebrated around us, but I barely noticed anything anymore. My chest felt numb. When we reached the gate, I handed her bags back to her and looked directly at her. I told her she had hurt me worse than anybody ever had in my life. I told her cheating was cheating, no matter what screen it happened behind. Then I told her this would be the last time she ever saw me, and I walked away. The hardest part was having to return to my graduating class afterward pretending everything was fine. Everybody else celebrated with their families while I sat there feeling hollow. I barely remember that night. I only remember staring at the ceiling afterward, realizing my marriage had collapsed before it even truly began. But somehow, against all logic, I still took her back. Over the next couple weeks, Madison called constantly crying and apologizing. Her entire family got involved too. Her mother swore Madison made a terrible mistake and promised she would change. Her father told me marriage required forgiveness and patience. Madison herself begged nonstop for another chance, claiming she had been lonely and stupid and immature. I wanted desperately to believe her because despite everything, I still loved her. So I gave her one final chance. By then, I had reached my first duty station and started the process of finding housing. We picked out a small but beautiful place together near the base. It felt like the fresh start we desperately needed. We spent days packing up our belongings and driving nearly 1,000 miles in a rented truck to move everything into our new home. For a brief moment, things actually seemed normal again. We unpacked furniture together. We joked while assembling shelves. We cooked dinner together in our new kitchen. Sometimes at night we even talked about future plans again like nothing bad had ever happened. But deep down, something inside me no longer trusted her. Once trust breaks, it changes the entire atmosphere of a relationship. Every strange smile at a phone screen feels suspicious. Every delayed reply feels heavy. I hated feeling paranoid, but my instincts kept screaming at me that something was still wrong. About a month after moving in, I got that feeling again. Anybody who has been betrayed knows exactly what I mean. Nothing obvious happens. There is no proof. Just this horrible tension sitting in your chest telling you something is off. One evening, I finally asked Madison if I could see her phone. She immediately became defensive. That reaction alone already answered half my questions. Still, she handed it over while insisting I was acting crazy and insecure. At first glance, everything looked clean. No suspicious messages, no weird apps, nothing, but something felt too clean. Then I remembered hearing about hidden apps before. I opened her settings and checked screen time usage to see what applications she spent the most time on. That was when I found it. Discord. Except the app itself was nowhere visible on her home screen. My hands actually started shaking while I searched deeper into the phone until I finally uncovered the hidden app. The second I opened it, my entire body went cold. There were 3 separate conversations with 3 different men. Not random conversations either. Months worth of messages, pictures, voice call logs, sexual conversations, flirting, inside jokes, and worst of all, messages where she mocked me to these strangers while I worked long military shifts to support both of us. I kept scrolling hoping somehow it would get less horrifying, but it only became worse. There were nude photos exchanged back and forth. Call histories showing she talked to these men almost daily, including while I was at work after we had already moved into our new home together. I cannot even describe the feeling properly. Rage, humiliation, heartbreak, disgust, all crashing together at once so intensely I thought I might actually throw up. And the craziest part, these were men she had never even met in real life. She threw away our marriage for online validation from strangers connected through a mobile game. When I confronted her, she immediately started crying and repeating the same pathetic excuse. They were just friends. I remember laughing when she said that because the situation had become so absurd it barely even felt real anymore. Friends do not exchange nude photos. Friends do not spend hours hiding secret conversations. Friends do not mock somebody behind their back while living in the home they pay for. At that moment, whatever love I still had left for her finally died. I took the phone away since it was under my account anyway, locked myself inside the bedroom, and spent most of the night sitting on the floor trying to process how my life had turned upside down so quickly. Madison cried outside the door for hours while begging me to talk to her, but I was beyond talking. The next morning, I called her mother and told her to come pick up her daughter. No yelling, no dramatic fight. I was simply done. Madison packed her things while crying nonstop, but I barely reacted anymore. I think I had already emotionally detached by then. Watching her leave should have hurt more, but honestly, I mostly felt exhausted. Like I had spent years carrying a relationship by myself only to realize the other person stopped caring a long time ago.